Hey, good afternoon, everybody, or good evening. Welcome to you wherever you're watching us from around the country. It's afternoon here in San Diego in the pop-up Chuck Jones Gallery. My name is Andy Turner. I'm delighted to be with you today with our very special guest who we're going to spend some time with. We're going to do a big reveal in a moment. I think he's masked right now, but Ben Olson is an internationally acclaimed artist and also a very good friend. We happen to share space on the board for the Chuck Jones Center for Creativity. Ben is also an artist for Chuck Jones Galleries. And we're going to delve into some of his work, talk a little bit about his background. I should mention he did this great baseball jersey for one of our projects for the Center for Creativity. We're going to take a look at some of his great artwork, which you see in the background here. We're going to get to meet him in this special event where we turn the tables on Ben. He's hosted, as many of you know, a couple of our programs during Comic-Con, also throughout the year. Now it's time to turn the tables on Ben, ask him some questions, and learn a little bit about his art and his philosophy. We're going to talk a little bit about some mashups and comic work first. Ben is in the middle of producing this absolutely phenomenal Conquer Earth series where he plans with his kids and wife to take over all of Earth. But he's going to do it through some of the characters that we all know and love, some playful backgrounds, a lot of fun, really, really fascinating concept. We're going to talk about that. And then at the end of this session, we have a big surprise and a big reveal of some new work that Ben has done. Little different style, a lot of fun, some characters I know everybody is going to instantly recognize and love. I had an opportunity to see a couple of the characters, a couple of the pieces that are in concept work, a couple that I haven't that Ben is going to surprise all of us with at the end of this. So I hope everybody will stay around and enjoy. But now I see a guy in full Spider-Man costume with us. There he is. Spider-Man?
I mean, if we're going to do a Comic-Con show, you might as well show up as a superhero. I tried to hang upside down, didn't work.
Did you spin any webs?
I tried.
Well, let's do this. Let's take a look and see the real Ben Olson. There we go. Hey, Ben, how are you?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
Good, good. Great to see you from across the country. As you join us from beautiful, sunny, hot California, Florida, and we're out here in San Diego. So talk to me a little bit about, I'd ask how your Comic-Con is going, but you're in Florida.
Yeah, for Trish and Al, I'll try to put it back on later. Don't worry. We'll just keep layering. I'm enjoying the whole series. If you were with us last night, Fabio was fantastic. The new releases, all the stories, it was phenomenal. And then if you stuck for Eric Bauza, that dude is incredible and is just an instant wit machine and just spitting stuff out in every voice known to man and just a really cool guy. So I'm thoroughly, I ended last night at midnight after Bauza.
It was only 9 o'clock here.
Yes.
I mean, you've had a couple of things. I will tell you, I mentioned one Comic-Con item from today. Attended a panel with a number of voiceover artists, and it was great seeing 6 Eric Bauzas, or the Eric Bauza equivalent. But it's phenomenal when we can have him one-on-one, and when he just goes through the voices and characterizations, it's amazing how he brings everything to life.
Well, he's so generous with just everything. He's generous with the voices. He doesn't hold back. He lets loose. He has a blast with it. It's just something that he genuinely loves, you know, and you can tell because it just comes out in everything he does. So I love that guy. He's fantastic.
Well, then how can you not love voicing characters that we've all grown up with? I mean, when you see Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, it just brings back all of these memories and fun times.
Yes.
And to get to be the voice and follow in the shoes of Mel Blanc is just phenomenal.
So, hey, what are we, we kicked this thing off and we're drinking stuff. And last night I pulled out the trophy. What are you on tonight?
Tonight I'm on the Best of Poland Spring. You you want to stay on your toes, I'm sure we can order something as time goes around, but look at you.
I went for the chili mango margarita, so we're just going to do a little stir. I ordered these glasses. Now, it's not as big as the last night's glass, but it is still substantial, 24 ounces.
Well, this gives new meaning to speak to your consultants
Delicious.
to order the grande size margarita. Could you just show that glass again, Ben?
Yes, it's a two-hander, so there it
That
is.
is,
I mean, that's impressive, right?
that is nice.
It's chili mango. Delicious.
Now that sounds like a mashup of margarita flavors. Would you agree?
I agree. And what a great segue into what you wanted to get to first.
Hey, that's from drinking Poland spring water.
Oh yeah. Yes, Trish and Al, I could bathe in this thing. It's gigantic. All right. Well, you take it away, sir.
So let's kick this off and talk about mashups. I guess what are mashups? Let's just start at the beginning, Ben. And why do people love them so much?
Well, mashups are taking different intellectual properties like Looney Tunes and Star Wars or whatever, and you're kind of combining them with characters or maybe looks, and I think why people love them so much, why I love them so much, is because I'm a big geek and a nerd about all these. So when you start to combine, like Marvin with Boba Fett or, whatever, and how you do the mashup. And as you'll see, there's a certain dog and a certain God of Thunder that's mixed up in a mashup tonight. I love it because it's fun, and I think it's super interesting, and I love to see the characters play in each other's worlds.
I was going to say, I think you're giving the artist perspective, and when you say it's fun, that's great, Ben, because this really is all about you. But as somebody who appreciates the art and looks at it, I think it's a lot of fun because we're so used to seeing characters in their own setting. And
Yes.
Then you take this mashup, and it's great to see a character in a setting that you might not have imagined or have been able to see if you go back to the original documents, the original cartoon, things like that. How do you come up with some of these ideas for mashups?
Well, some of it is just things that make sense to me. Like there's some, you'll look at a character and, for instance, the one that just went gangbuster nuts was Boba Fett Marvin. And when that series came out, I love Star Wars. I also love Looney Tunes. And I was looking, I'm like, there's a design mix here, and I see it. And, there's a way to have Marvin, take on some attributes of Boba Fett's armor. And then when the series came out, I love the series. So I started doing a mashup drawing, and people went nuts for it, which is great. And then I just kind of kept going because I'm like, all right, we'll do 2 a show. That series, which turned into a series, which didn't intentional start out that way, ended up with well over 500,000 likes, comments, shares over all like Instagram, Twitter. People were sending me stuff from different groups where it was getting 30,000 likes here and like 45,000 likes there and comments. And it was cool because we're all kind of enjoying the same thing. And like, just like when I see people do some mashups and I'm like, oh, it totally makes sense, And so it just comes from that place of seeing something in each and being like, aha, I think there's something here.
Now, when you say it makes sense, is that before or after the gigantic margarita that you showed us?
I would like to say it's before and during. It's delicious.
Okay, so by the end of this, we're going to see what new mashups would come up out of this, and we'll talk about them before. But you mentioned something about seeing or something that makes sense to you. How is it or what is it that clicks? Because we're all so used to seeing, Bugs Bunny in a certain frame or character, the Star Wars characters that you mentioned. So what is it that brings them together for you?
It has to be something that makes sense with the character. So, would you just put, like I did an Iron Man Wile E. Coyote, and he's getting an Acme Iron Man suit. That makes sense because Wile E. Coyote's trying something out after he's going. So of course he would want. So that makes sense. It's not like, you take a character and you just put like a Batman suit on him. Well, why would you do that? Is it just to do it? I don't know. So there's just certain things that they gel like, and Scott Ryder, like, so the first one, like, there's some sketches, and I was doing this for Inktober last year, and I love The Incredibles and I love Iron Man, and I love that scene where he's like, "Where is my super suit?" You know, and she's like, "Don't you?" Like they're going out on a date or whatnot, and he's looking for a suit. It's not there. Well, Stark sent him, and what I love about this was because obviously Samuel L. Jackson is Nick Fury in the Avengers in the MCU. And so like this kind of world that like, Tony Stark just sent, Frozone like the upgraded suit, right? Yeah. And it was funny to me because not only is it Frozone getting an upgraded suit because it's not there, but it's also like he's also Nick Fury. So, like stuff like that.
So when you and it stays in many senses true to the character, right? Because if you change the character too much, you're going to injure the image or the fans, right?
Right. Well, yeah. And then it's cool. Like they can be cool. Like I like to have a story behind it. So like, what's the thing? Like what makes me chuckle about it, or like something interesting. I'm like, oh, yeah, it totally makes sense. Like it's got to make sense. So.
Well, and you started to say it makes sense to you, and then a few minutes ago you talked about how you started to get 30,000 likes and up. What is your reaction as the artist when people give you feedback on your work?
I was blown away. I did it because I love doing it, and then when I put it out there, and other people, like, I love Marvin. He's my, like him and Wiley are probably my two favorite Looney Tunes characters, and you got Bugs and Daffy and so on. And so to see like to have something that I created that I loved doing, and that I love Star Wars, I love this, I'm all in for the Boba Fett thing, and to have it take off like that, I'm like, okay, maybe the little story that I'm telling with this is like speaking to other people too, and then they would take it and share it. The same thing that I do. I think I'm a fan first and foremost, so I love to soak all this stuff in too, and when other people do great stuff. So that's where, like, when that took off, yeah, dude, let her look at that whole rack.
I love them.
You're right, you're smiling and you're like this.
Yeah.
Turn around and look at the screen. That's the artist.
Hi.
Oh, hi.
A little fun. He's not. He's here. He's
on TV.
He's with us, and we're just talking about feedback. So what do you like?
I have a big smile on my face. Just the way it's portrayed, the color use, like just how sharp it is. It feels like there's layers to it.
So we've had layers, colors, the characters, right?
Who's her favorite character? First of all, what's her name?
That's now that I've roped you into this, whether you want it to be or not. But what is your name?
Oh, Fariha.
Fariha. Well, welcome to the Chuck Jones Gallery. That's Ben Olson.
Hi.
He's going to Comic-Con as Spider-Man.
Okay.
And we were just talking about how an artist feels when they get feedback on their art, and you happen to walk right in at the right moment with a big smile. And Ben wants to know what your favorite character is.
It doesn't have to be one up there,
but that's your favorite piece. But your favorite character, we were talking about mashups too, where you take your character from one setting, put it into another that makes sense to Ben, because this is about him.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
And you could win one of those big margaritas from Ben.
Looks like the one I had yesterday.
Well, there. Okay.
Listen.
Here's some good feedback too. How do you feel today?
Wonderful.
Good. All right. That's good news, Ben. You can drink that thing.
all right, I can go back to it.
Can I continue to enjoy?
Oh, you absolutely should. Just answer Ben's question. We know you like that piece, right? Which is Super Bugs.
Yes.
But do you have a favorite character, Looney Tunes or Warner Brothers character?
Tasmanian Devil comes to mind.
Tasmanian Devil.
There you go.
And I don't know that you've done too many of those, have you?
No, but I'm not going to say what I was going to try to do if I had more time, but it was involving Taz and a certain X-Men character.
Great.
Yeah.
Right.
And to see how you portray the speed.
How I what?
How you would portray the speed.
Oh,
the whirling dervish
yes.
Of the devil. That it's always fun to see what an artist does. And so thank you. Fariha's going to go enjoy the rest of the gallery.
Yes, enjoy the rest.
Benefit of coming down and being here. down there. Let us know what else you think. Thanks for jumping in and helping us out. So we have, there you go, instant feedback for you, Ben.
Feedback.
There you go.
All right.
So back to the mashups. Have you taken these ideas? For instance, she just gave us the name of a character that I haven't seen you do very much work on. Would you take that feedback, or would you have to have something that jumps into your head and then makes sense only to you?
No, there'll be people that bring up stuff and they're like, oh, and it'll click. And you're like, oh, totally. Like I could totally see something there. So yeah, I did Taz as the Rancor, in Star Wars, like after I did the series, and I'm like, that kind of made sense. But I've wanted to do Taz as the Wolverine from the X-Men. So there's going to be an X-Men piece because I want to do it. I love Jim Lee. I grew up in that era of the 90s, when the like X-Men and like Amazing Spider-Man, Todd McFarlane, all those guys. So
we should back up though. When you said you grew up, some would argue you actually still have not grown up.
Well, I haven't grown. All right, let me just put it this way. When chronologically age-wise, I was younger.
As each calendar year turns, but
yes. Technically, if you look at my driver's license, I have aged.
Yes.
But in here, it's all kid.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, the great Jimmy Buffett said, "I'm growing older, but not up."
Yes.
Yes. I think that would explain. So what other comics and mashups do we have? Are you thinking about
So I wanted to I think Scott was, there were some things that came to mind. Scott, you can go ahead and take that and we'll cycle through. So it was I forget what the prompt was, but it was Thor and his hammer. And I've had a bird land on my head before and took a dump, right? And that just sucked. So, and I've watched it at the zoo where like birds, you go into the aviary and they're all landing on people. And they're like, this is awesome, until the birds start crapping all over people. And so like I think the title for this one is Not Today, right? Like and Thor has his two ravens, Hugin and Union, or however you say that, I'm not sure. But one of his ravens landed on his head and he's like, not today, right? You're not doing this to my helmet. So that was the prompt on it, which to me was hilarious. Thor is my second all-time favorite comic book character. My first my top number one Marvel favorite character. So that was that one. And then Scott, you can go to the next one.
And who's your top?
Top is Batman.
Batman top.
You know why? Because when I was little, and I saw a couple of the comics, but I hadn't started collecting yet. And then the 1989 movie came out with Michael Keaton, and just was it. Like, it's what I love about Batman, and he's a superhero without superpowers. He uses his intellect. He works out, like he puts the work in. Yeah, he's got a lot of money. That doesn't hurt. But he's just, at the end of it, there's nothing like super powered about him, right? So, and I love the whole like the guy's smart. So anyway, Batman's my all-time favorite.
I just want to explain, Ben, we're going to scroll, and as we show some of these pictures on the bottom, chuckjonescatalog.com, people want to see an even greater representation of your work, head over to the website, take a look at that. Those that are watching that have a consultant with the gallery, make sure to reach out to them. But this is just going to be a small representation of your work. We've got some in process. I know we're going to show some.
We got a super secret thing later. Super secret,
and it's good. We are talking about mashups. And you mentioned Eric Bauza yesterday. Would you like to see a really cool mashup today?
Yeah, I would.
Me and Eric Bauza.
Shut up.
No, I cannot shut up. Look at this.
I was just in the neighborhood getting some carrots from the grocery store. And I thought I'd pop in. How's it going, Doc?
Hey, buddy. Dude, all right. I gave a glowing thing about you like 20 minutes ago, so you missed my puff piece on you, right? But I commented and I said, for one, you're the dude. We've been able to chat, and especially when we're both nerding out like studio stuff, and we're taking pictures of our artwork and be like, I love this, and I'm like, I love that. And I'm like, we have that mutual love of things. And what I love about you, man, like there's a lot of things, but like if you're not following Bowzilla on Instagram, you really should, right? Follow it because it's hilarious. And this guy he lives it. And that's what I love about this. Like those, those of us who just we as Andy said, we may have chronologically aged, but we have not grown up. And everything you put into what you do is this love of where it comes from. And I have that same love in there. So to watch you do it, and I get to live through what you put out, like I just enjoy it all. And I have mad respect for you, not just for your talent, man, but like I love the posts, your son, the whole thing. Like I got mad respect for you on multiple fronts. You're a super cool guy. You're extremely generous with your talent, and like you just did now, like with the voice, and your love of that just comes through. So man, like I'm telling you, this guy is not only the real deal, like he's at a bar that's set super high, and I just have the greatest admiration for you, dude.
And after this, I'll be at a bar right across the street. If you guys, I'll buy shots for everyone. But honestly,
no, Eric, we're not doing shots today. This is what you're buying here.
What
This
is that?
is
It's everything but the kitchen sink, I guess.
Yes.
no, the kitchen sink is in there too. He's got
And if you want, we'll drop a fireball. So you just tell me.
I'm telling you, you should be here. That straw looks long enough to go to San Diego. I feel.
It could. Next year, the plan is to be in person.
Definitely, and I would not miss it for the world. And this gentleman here asked me to come by and say hi, and I will. I have some other obligations in the studio, but I'll be around.
Yes.
And of course, there's lots of folks here today coming to see you in the gallery. And if Pepe Le Pew were here, I believe it's Comic-Con is French for love. No, that is what we're here for. Like Comic-Con is, I feel like, I know it's only like 4 to 5 days. It seems very short. But I feel like the admiration for the fandom, and not just with Chuck Jones, but with entertainment and pop culture, is it can't be capped to 4 days. It's all year round.
You know what I wanted to ask you yesterday, then I get to ask you real quick, and then you can, I know you're busy, this is when I was in 6th grade, I believe. I traded gum for this. This is my very first comic ever, right? And it's worn on the edges and stuff, right? Spider-Man Deadly Foes #2. I since got the full set, but this was the very first comic that I ever got. And it's what like got me into Spider-Man and like everything else. Do you remember, or do you still have something from your childhood that introduced you into that world of?
Oh, it's for me, it's the How to Draw Bugs Bunny and Friends book. And in it are drawings from my youth of me learning how to draw bugs, Roadrunner. I was obsessed with the Roadrunner when I was a kid. That was like my favorite visual, like Looney Tunes character. And then, I always think that if you put them side by side, Roadrunner and Woody Woodpecker are the same character, just different haircuts.
here's going to come a mashup of Woody Woodpecker.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Doc?
Yeah, it's all Mel Blanc at the end of the day. Yeah.
So we were talking mashups, so your timing was perfect. We won't repeat the whole thing, but I will just say for you, Eric, I attended a session earlier at Comic-Con that had 6 voiceover artists.
Oh, nice.
And they all bring the same enthusiasm that you do.
Yeah.
And we're just lucky to have, or yesterday, a whole hour with you, and today a couple of more minutes. But that enthusiasm is infectious. And if you think about it from really what Mel Blanc started, and you're continuing, the characters that we know and love have to have voice.
Yeah.
And it's bringing it to them. People like Ben, Chuck originally did bring the movement, but it's that combination of the movement and the voice.
That's all it is, right? I mean, and it's always amplified, because as voiceover artists, we don't have this to rely on. We only have our voices. So.
You were on the big stage.
Don't rely on this at all,
You were on the big stage. You were on the big stage with the monster screen. I was geeking out for you. I even put it in a thing. I'm like, yes.
I just try not to look up. I just look at the guests, and that's it. But have an awesome day today.
Thanks,
I'll
buddy.
be around the gallery, and
that's not all, folks.
Thanks,
Thanks for
man.
stopping by, Eric.
of course.
All right, well, we'll see who else stops by in the gallery here. Ben, I don't know who's stopping by your house, but you never know when you're talking about mashups.
You be Domino.
You were good enough. Hold up your comic book again.
So this is Spider-Man Deadliest Foes. I got this. This was my very first comic book. It was
All right. One day you will have to meet my very good friend Aaron, and he will talk to you about comic book collecting. And throw a few surprises your way. I'm very, very confident.
All right.
So we'll mash up some other people together. What we were in the middle of showing some of your artwork that I'd like to bring back up. I wanted to have Eric come on quickly because I know he's busy. But what do we have here? A pizza tracker?
No, well, so this is the Watcher. This is the Watcher. He's in the Marvel universe, right? And when the What If series came out, I love the What If series. I love the art, love the story, love the whole art. And to me, what was like the Watcher can see everything, right? And what was funny to me about that is like the Watcher watching his watch, right? Because it's 30 minutes or less, so your pizza's free. And that dude is, I forget how many minutes are left on there. I think it says 29 minutes and 51 seconds or something.
Or it's free.
Yeah, it's going to be free pretty soon. So it was just the funny thing to me was the Watcher watching his watch. Like how many times can you put there you go, 29 minutes and 31 seconds, right? So that to me was hilarious. And that's his little sand of time thing, right? How he tells that it's 29 seconds to go on that. I have no idea. But so, you know, that was something that was funny to me. And then you can scroll to the next, Scott. So this one was for what turned out to be the Red Dot piece last year for Chuck Jones Center for Creativity. And it was
Red Dot is, of course, the annual fundraiser where people get to see art. The artist isn't identified. You buy, as you should with any piece of artwork that you love, and will trigger a memory, make you happy.
Yep.
So
I did this. This was my concept sketch for what I was going to do for the piece. And there's a tiny little Grogu in a pouch. So this is my steampunk Marvin Mando, like riding his steampunk canine, which would be like the do-back thing that they've got, or I forget what the thing was that Mando was riding in the beginning of season 1. And then there's the little tiny Grogu, little baby, probably the tiniest Grogu I've ever done. And he's got his little steampunk goggles on. So it's a little steam, and he's just peeking up over the top. So that was my concept sketch for that, kind of mixing up a whole different thing, Star Wars, steampunk, Looney Tunes. And then if you go to the next, that's pencil. So this one, it's 7-Eleven, right? Was just like 2 weeks ago. And Slurpees. And I'm like, what? So we've got like the Razor, or not the Razor Crest. We've got the Naboo Starfighter, which is Mando's little ship. It's parked at 7-Eleven. He's going to go get his free Slurpee. and Mando Marvin it reminded me a little bit of Spaceballs. And I am a huge Mel Brooks fan, And I love Spaceballs. I love Blazing Saddles. I love Young Frankenstein. Like just go down the list. Robin Hood Men in Tights. So this kind of evoked a little bit of that scene in Spaceballs, you know, where they're at where they're at the diner. So like that was kind of to me like, all right, this thing on a floating rock. And then he's got the 1138 ounce Slurpee, which is THX 1138, which was George Lucas's first film, right? Which is why the name of his first film is the amount of ounces in the Slurpee. Haha, it all comes around. So
we have a lot of mashing up going on in there, Ben.
There's a lot of mashing up, yes. So, and then you want to roll to the next one. There was something in a concept, and it was for this thing on Instagram for March of Robots, where they give you a prompt. And I did Roadrunner in this robot form, and because my thought was like, okay, if Wiley, like what would take place? Like, would I develop this into an actual, you know, painting or a concept? And I want to develop into that where he unleashes this robot army of Roadrunners, and to his own chagrin, of course. But there was something to that. I'm like, well, I need to figure out what he looks like. So this was my this got a lot of comments and which was so Speedius Bertus or Robotus Birdium, you know, and I'm like, this if they were to build something, if this was the Acme version of a Roadrunner robot, this is what it would look like.
I was going to say, I see in this, Ben, the Acme Sculpture Company bringing this concept to life.
Yes. So this would be what, you know, Wiley would be trying to do to, you know, he would unleash this army of robots, you know, a Roadrunner to go get him. It's never going to work. And then if you want to go to the next one, so this not a mashup. This is just when I saw Spider-Man No Way Home, to me, the MCU is kind of like, you know, it's choking a little bit. But like in comes Spider-Man No Way Home, has all the feels. You know, my buddy and I went to go see it like the night it opened, right after his wife, and he dropped his wife off at the house, went back to the theater. I dropped my wife and kids off after a wedding dinner, went right to the theater. And I was shouting when Tobey Maguire, when Andrew Garfield showed up. I mean, the whole thing, dude. I love that film. So
Hang on, spoiler alert. Go ahead.
So yes, spoiler alert. So anyway, there was I love Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, and I love Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So like that crossing of worlds. So this was and it's 11 by 14. It was ink and marker. I had to put that concept out. So I did it. I put it in full color. There it is. And then, and I can't believe I haven't showed this. So if like, there's just like, I saw, Thor is obviously my favorite MCU character or Marvel character. So, and then you have the Bifrost, and with what they have now with Stormbreaker and Mjolnir, now that Mjolnir's back, I'm like, wouldn't it be hilarious, if Thor and Little Thor, was Snoopy and Woodstock. And so this is they're at Asgard, right? Asgard's being miraculously rebuilt, and they have summoned the Bifrost. So this is these two guys in their little Thor getup, and off they go.
Now, have you shown this one before?
No, I didn't even tease it. So like, nobody's seen it until right now.
Because that's phenomenal that you see, and again, taking the characters. There you go.
There. So this is the piece. It was one of those things that it just totally made sense to me, and like the duo of the two, I'm like, yes, that's got to happen. So I went for Summon the Bifrost. It was after I saw Thor: Love and Thunder.
So the one question that I'm getting here, Ben, in the studio is whether it's available.
It is.
It is available. So we'll see if that goes. And as Dawn just put up for us, other work is available at chuckjonescatalog.com/Olson, you'll see that, but new work from Ben Olson being unveiled even as we speak. And so, Ben, the characters that you mashed up are really just, they're not limited to the Warner Brothers where of course you've gained a lot of popularity here in the gallery, but taking other characters, this whole idea, and putting them into other universes, other scenes.
So yeah, that thing, it made sense to me, right? Now that we had this in Thor: Love and Thunder, we had Stormbreaker and Mjolnir, right? Mighty Thor. So that kind of like clicked. So I went to go do that piece. I'm like, what would they do? I'm like, they'd be summoning the Bifrost. So like, pop on the Rainbow Bridge, dude, and let's go travel somewhere.
So this is a question that I understand is coming to you from a non-artist, but what is the process that you go through when you're looking at a character? It's one thing if you make up the character, like Fabio was talking about last night. It's his character. He draws it, so whatever comes out, comes out. You're doing characters that have been started many, many, many years ago, and by other artists that you're now doing your representation, and they're obviously very faithful. And we look behind me, you see the characters, but maybe a little bit of the Ben Olson twist. What is your concept to get those characters so that they're right? Because if we don't recognize Bugs up here, that doesn't work, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's why you have to have the attributes that make sense, and you can still understand who the characters are. So a mashup to me doesn't make sense if you totally can't. You don't, like if you put a stormtrooper helmet on, name a character, but you have no other distinguishing features, or even in the helmet there's no distinguishing features, then it doesn't make sense. And we'll get to the Darth or the Darth.
If we have the next image from Ben.
Let's go to this one first. So this one, obviously, there's something in like what I wouldn't want to do in this is I don't want to put Bugs in his Superman in a Superman suit, and then Wily in a Batman suit, because Chuck already did this, and he did it like beautifully. And where, even though that bat suit only shows up until he hits that rock, which is the painting that you got behind you, right? But there's something in Wily in this bat suit. I'm like, there's more to it, right? He would use this for more. So he busts out his Acme grapple, and obviously Bugs is eating his magic carrots, which is allowing him to float. So this kind of thing, this makes sense, right? The two of them together in this world using the actual suits that they have in the cartoons that Chuck did, that makes sense to me, which is why tonight this is the collector mini. So I signed them in
What is a collector mini?
this is a mini print, and it's only for tonight. It's only for whatever's purchased tonight. You can purchase anything tonight, and this goes with it. And then I hand sign them all in gold in the corner. So this, to me, like, I created this and I'm like, oh, I got to do this for this. And so this is the collector mini for the show.
So we share that with our friends in the gallery, that if they make a purchase tonight, even though you're in Florida, they are getting one of those mini prints.
This will ship out to the gallery on Monday.
Good to know. But as you were speaking too, I was thinking about when you talk about putting
There's the original.
what maxi print now instead of mini.
That's the original. So
That's the original.
this is the original.
So is that one available?
I'm gonna go with no. I'm pretty
Go
sure,
with
pretty
all
sure
right.
I was told no.
All right, which means and tells me if you like a Ben Olson piece, get it quickly. So
It's yeah, my
there's now an emphatic no that piece is not available.
I know who's got it. So
Fair enough. But again, it makes the point about if you like an original piece that you see and you really like it, get it, because it's one of a kind. Ben will be doing other artwork, but get it. We're going to talk about your series in just a couple of minutes. But I wanted to comment on your statement about putting bugs in the character as opposed to slapping a Superman suit on him, where it's not a true representation of the character. Is that what you're going with in the going
and
forward?
so, like, even if you see the super bugs behind you, that's an homage to Alex Ross's Superman. And I've gotten the good fortune of hanging out with that dude. He came up to my studio with his family for a couple hours on a Saturday, and a phenomenal guy. I can't speak highly enough about Alex Ross. And I loved his Superman representation. And I'm like, there's something in the homage, and he's seen that. He likes it, which is like, woohoo. And so
Did he get a mini print just for liking it?
No, he gets he gets my print, the proof that I had to sign off on to do it. That's what he gets. So
Fair enough.
So there's something in there that it's like, I love the pose. And what I like about putting super bugs in different formats, because I'm not done with that. Like, I want to expand that a little bit, especially with the whole Wiley thing, is there's something in that, in the comic reference, that we can do and still maintain and be true with what Chuck created. Because I don't want to put him in a Superman suit. I want him in his super bug suit. I want him with those magical carrots, right? And I want Wiley in his green, bat suit. So there's just that, to me, like, that's funny to me. Like, that's something I enjoy. And then you put it in an environment like that, like Alex Ross changed the game, on comic art, and is, we affectionately call him the gouache father. And because gouache is the style of paint, which, Don, I'm going to get to your question on which medium do I like to work in. And they're what he did in bringing those comic references in such a, like, powerful, realistic form, dude. So, like, that's my homage to Alex Ross and he likes it. So we're all good there.
So that's a win.
That's a
Comes
win.
back. That's kind of the ultimate feedback too to get when we were talking about
That is a win.
feedback earlier too. So did you have other mashups to show us?
So we're gonna just show
They're
two
fun.
others.
Here we go.
We're just gonna show two others. So this one is Pyromaniac, right? And these two, the last two, are the Star Wars references, and it's what's gonna show off, the Obi-Wan show. So watch the Obi-Wan series. The first half, the last half, loved it. And there was that scene where, Vader's like lighting the whole place up and dragging him through the flames, kind of like retribution for episode 3 when he was barbecuing him on Mustafar. And like there was something to this, and I'm like, all right, I had always envisioned Daffy Duck as Darth Vader. So Duck Vader comes out, and there was something that just, it made sense to me. And in this, you've got like the 3 moons of Tatooine, which are behind him. And I love lighter fluid. Like, man, do I love lighter fluid. And so when I light fires, I got a fire pit out here, dude, I lay it on. And my wife, to the point where my wife's like, that's enough. And I'm like, you don't know, that is not enough. I'm like, trust me, I'll let you know when it's enough.
That's the worst thing somebody can say to Ben is that's enough.
That's enough, right? And so in this whole scene right now, there was somebody on Instagram and they caught this, and what he's burning is the Last Jedi script, because I hate that movie with a passion, and for like numerous reasons. And so so he's lighting the Last Jedi script on fire. And if you look at the ounces on the bottle, so it's a 77-ounce bottle, which is 1977, which is when Darth Vader debuts, right? And this is the Mustafar lighter fluid, right? Because that's where it comes from. And then we have the 20 plus 5-ounce liquid, which is 2005, which is when he turns into Vader in episode 3. And then we have the 20-ounce O2, right? Plus O2. So we just add a little bit. And that is for, the 2022 series where Vader. So each one of those bottles references the the year like that Darth Vader like made up like a big thing. Now, the one thing I could have put in here is Rogue One, which I didn't, but I love Rogue One. It's my second favorite Star Wars film. So that's the significance there. And then we have of course the Pyromaniac support club, and what else would you serve but blue milk? So there's blue milk there, because we have to have that from A New Hope. And that's the whole scene there. So he is just going to town. I had a blast doing this one. And then just trying to fit the design. Again, you can't just slap a Darth Vader helmet on. You got to like fit it to the character. So I
was going to say, Ben, as you look at it, you can clearly see the two images. You've got the duck built around the Vader helmet. So you see the representation of both characters. It's true to both of them, but now seen in a new way.
Right. So that's the key, right? It can't just, it's got to be a thing. So there's my Duck Vader and his grand debut into the Star Wars mashup of Looney Tunes. And then the last
phenomenal, also capturing the character, adding the Olson twist.
Yes.
And another one that really catches it.
So
this is
like, I love like the fact that Marvin can play, because if you think about it, right, Jango Fett being the original, Marvin can play that, and then you got Boba Fett. So really, Marvin is the ultimate clone trooper. And what there was, I forget which episode this was, maybe 2 or 1 or 2, and you've got this clone trooper. I swore it was going to be Rex, but it wasn't. And he's all like hairy and stuff, and he's just sitting on the side of a street, and I'm like, dude, I could totally put Marvin in that pose. And because that makes sense, Marvin could be a clone trooper because he comes from that lineage. So I sketched it out, and I did a furry Marvin, with the helmet, and credits will do, right? So because credits didn't do in Phantom Menace, and so even though Qui-Gon Jinn said credits will do, it did not. And then what I loved about it is, in the bag he's got the sandwich bag that's next to him, right? And I forget what I put on. I'll have to read it because I've got it here. Yeah, it's there, but like there's something.
There it is. Bantha Burger.
Bantha Burger, that's what it is. And guess what order he was? Order 66. Come on, everybody. That's the kill Jedi order. So he went to Bantha Burger. He's got his order was number 66. How poetic that he's sitting underneath an I Love Jedi sticker. So, like this is a graffiti wall. I used the graffiti from the show, so that the emblems on each side, and then you got a busted up, R2 unit, and then you got a little mouse droid, because who doesn't love mouse droids? And then with the little sign that says credits will do, and he's holding his helmet out, for credits. So that just made sense to me.
Makes a lot of sense. Again, we know the characters, we see the sneakers, the droid is faithful, so it all makes sense and fits in to the new scene from Ben.
Yes. So that's kind of like the art of the mashup, and and I have fun with them. Like I have fun with all of them, and there's just a blast to do.
So the idea, the mashup is a lot of fun. We saw a little bit of.
Does she have a real lightsaber? The girl just went behind the rack. There's a lightsaber. We were just talking about Star Wars.
You have a real lightsaber?
And we got a rebel pilot. Come on.
It's real enough, Ben, for your purposes.
So I'm just saying, if you're gonna do it, come on. Come on,
All right.
light it up.
We're now going to have cross-country lightsaber wars. Ready?
And with a little, it's just, let's all nerd out on this. I'm down with it. So anyway, don't worry. She doesn't have to be on camera anymore. I just saw the lightsaber.
Who wins?
She'll win.
There
They're
you
like, I
go.
can't- They're
More
like, what's going
mashups.
on there? I'm like,
For-
I don't know. Some guy in a Spider-Man shirt's got a lightsaber. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
See,
can you
Ultra
explain
Saber.
why
That's
the-
where I got mine from.
Spider-Man guy
Watch,
has
same one.
She just said she's Batman, so somehow it all makes sense and she has a lightsaber. So we're behind the screen here. We're waiting for the cape to come out, Ben.
That's
So
fine. That's fine. So yes, I think
Um,
a bunch of us have Ultra Sabers. I got my.
anyway, we are we were talking about the mashups, and you kind of hinted at steampunk in some of the themes there, and where I've seen steampunk in your work really start to peak out is your Conquer Earth series that we talked about a little bit. I mentioned at the very top of this, and the Conquer Earth series. Literally, you're going to do planets A to Z, if I understand. But
Correct.
let's talk about what Conquer Earth is, what's coming up, what how you came up with the letters for them, and I see you're now doing a
Now we got
change
now
of
we're,
costume.
now we're into phase 2 of 3, right? So, and then I'll save the surprise shirt for the last part. So yeah, here's Conquer Earth.
All right, I'm
right?
just checking if anybody else is doing a costume change here in the gallery,
It might.
but
Con.
we'll see. All right, so now we have mine.
Yes.
What
so,
are we talking about here?
So what we're talking about is like when I Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century is one of my all-time favorite shorts from Chuck. And you know, the Illudium Fosdex Atom, the shaving cream atom, right? It's hilarious. Like, what does it make sense? Sure, it makes total sense to me. Off walks Andy because he doesn't even care about this part. You know what?
It makes no sense to me, so I'm leaving.
It's
No,
you and
we
me.
want.
It's you and me. It's okay. So there's something in this to where, like, what happens after Planet X? It just blows up, and like Marvin's got to be pissed, you know. And so there was this thing of like, what happens after that? Why was the shaving cream atom so important, right? What was to that? Well, Marvin like was going to corner the like universal market on shaving cream, and what you don't know about Martians is they have to shave constantly, or else they just get into a furry ball, like we saw in the mashup drawing, right? So like he's going to make a mint because he's going to corner the market, and then he's going to sell it all over the place. Well, who blows it up? Duck Dodgers from Earth. Guess what? It's time for some revenge. So what I loved about Chuck is when, you know, when he's going through the film and Daffy's drawing this whole map on how he has to get around or whatever, and Cadet is just, and it's what I love about the duo of Porky and Daffy, and Porky's role in that is just kind of like, why don't you just follow the letters? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? And so
Right.
what's on all the other planets? Like what they're just kind of passing those. Well, Marvin is going to go take the elements from all those planets to build this master weapon to go conquer Earth, because he's going to get back at Duck Dodgers. So like the steampunk thing had just kind of taken off in like some style, and I had done some concepts, and the pieces were, you know, picked up pretty quick, and people seem to gravitate to that. And I like steampunk. I love steampunk, the whole style. And that, again, the design made the shaving cream for a reduced rate for Ben. Yes, because I only do it here and here, just a little. So thank you, Bruce.
Shaving
So-
cream did not conquer Ben's face.
It did not, not at all. So there's something into where like what happens on all these other planets. So there, you know, the steampunk design fit just made sense to me with the characters, but Marvin can't do this by himself. And so who does Marvin interact with? Well, whether you're at the Return of Duck Dodgers, or you've got Marvin and Bugs and Hair Raising Hair, you know, Hair Devil Hair, you know, when it comes up, there was something there that like all these characters have interacted with each other. And so Marvin's got to build this team. He can't do this by himself, clearly, because it blew up on Planet X. So he's going to build a better team. Well, you got him, you got your loyal sidekick and Canine. You need like this master inventor. That's got to be Wile E. Coyote. And then you need the muscle, Gossamer. You're not going to get any bigger muscle than that. And then on the other side, you got the heroes of the game with Duck Dodgers and Cadet that have already faced off, and so has Bugs. Bugs has already faced off and defeated Marvin. So like that trio against this quad, right, go at it. And each planet they go to, there's an element or an atom or a whatever, that goes, and he's trying to grab these things to make this, and they're off to thwart it. And so in every piece has something to do with from my life, or something that is attached to me in this that I think is funny, because I kind of go by the Chuck model. Like if I'm making myself chuckle, then all right. And so it's very much me woven into all of these things as he's going to pull up all this stuff. And tonight we've launched we launched A through I, and then tonight we will launch J through O.
Excellent. And you, again, it keep coming back to this concept that you are able to get instant feedback now through Instagram, fans, literally selling a piece while we've been talking. And then you mentioned Chuck, who didn't get that instant feedback. They would work on a film and it might sit for 9 months or a year before it was shown in a theater. And obviously he didn't go to all of the theaters to view. So the feedback came back, if at all, a year after he finished the piece. You must appreciate that instant feedback.
Yeah, and I do. That for one, I'm terribly impatient. So to have and I'm terrible at keeping things, which clearly Scott Dickens should be very proud, because there's a whole lot of stuff I didn't show for this show. Okay.
But Ben, you're allowing me to just step right up to the door of something that you mentioned, because all of your concepts that you've been talking about have had a good side and an evil side, chase and a track side. So part of what we're going to reveal at the end, I do know, has a hero and a villain side.
Oh, it does.
So we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that theme. But getting back to the planets now, how do you go from that one idea now through this, what will be the whole alphabet, when it just starts from the Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century? You just mentioned it. All right, the line of going through the planets is there, but we don't know what's on the planets, and you're now coming up with these scenes. So what's the thought process there?
So it's kind of like, what would you use? Like, what would things need to do? Like, if you're going to conquer something, like, what would you use? Weapons, fuel, armor, blah, 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 whatever, right? Things to capture things with. Well, if you kind of look at the arsenal that you would need, right? That kind of convoy that would go out, what would be those elements, and like what would play in that? And that's how I would start to go through and start to like jot down things. And I constantly make lists of stuff, and I'm like, that's funny. I don't know if that works. What about this? And then I'll go look at what the actual definition of something is, and pull those together. And there's always a story behind it. So in planets A through I, there's a story behind all of it. And sometimes it's a pop culture reference. Like in planet I, it's the gamma grapes, which is pork smash from, I don't know where I put my covers, but where I did, and then if we look in like even planet D's got, and I think I have that. Where I put those planets? You'd think I would have done a better job.
Probably right after C, but I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I'm not great with the alphabet.
Might come before E as well.
Sometimes letters confuse me. So like if I got, and I think this is out of the first batch, I think this is the only original available currently. And I reworked it when I was doing it, but it's the floating. So you've got Hevonium Helios, right, which are lead balloons, which he uses to make bombs with. And this planet of floating rocks, kind of like Avatar, sort of, right? and so you've got these planet of floating rocks, and he's going off to like pull this up to the ship. All he's going to do is snip the cord, and you've got Cadet over here with the Acme jet blower just blowing him off the thing. So like that to me, like I'm bringing in stuff that I liked in like an Avatar aspect. I love the whole idea of lead balloons being a bomb. Like what would you make? A lead balloon? Like, does it float? No, it sinks. So yeah, you would stuff it with something and down it goes. So there's something funny about, and then how would you get thwarted? You just get blown off the side of the rock, and then the lead balloons just drop. So there's something kind of like humorous in that to me, and that's how I get into that, which is why once we start with the current set of 6 that dropped, which by the way,
it's also kind of fun because I know you're friends with Dan Killen, another artist that works with Chuck Jones, who's doing some work for the Albuquerque Balloon Festival. where obviously those balloons need to go up. And now here
Yes.
you're having fun with a lead balloon, which would obviously go down.
Drops like a
Any-
rock.
I mean, it's got to be fun for you to be able to do something that obviously just, on the one hand, doesn't make sense in reality, but makes sense in the mind of Ben Olson.
Yes, yeah, which is kind of a warped thing that goes on. I don't know if anybody would want to play around up there. But what I and then when I started to develop the series, I'm like, well, what would I want? Like if I was interested in the series and I was collecting something from this, like what would I want? And you know, whether it's a limited or it's an original, however that goes, I'm like, well, I would want like to me, I would want pins. So I did.
Yes.
I created all their like headpieces, right? All the hats, all the helmets. And I'm like, I would want that. That's what I would want. And I would want it exclusive to this series. So I designed all the pins based off their hats. I produced them all. And anybody who, there's like a, I don't know, Chuck Jones has it, ask your consultant about that, but there's like a tier of like how many pins you get to choose for whatever pieces that you pick.
Can you hold those up just again? Because like you said, there's always a story. So tell me about the pins.
So
They are all over Comic-Con in San
They
Diego. Everybody's got a pin lanyard. Everybody's got pins. And now these look pretty cool.
And yeah, and so you know, we've got Gossamers, we've got Canines, we've got Wiley's hat, we've obviously got Marvin's, we've got Duck Dodgers, we've got Cadet, and then we have Bugs. So I wanted these, and I'm like, I would want this if I was collecting something nice. And there's more stuff coming. Like there's a whole portfolio book if you collect the paper limiteds. There's other stuff, and you know, and I'm like, I would want to make this like it's a world to me. I'm building this story in this world, and in all that, like there's got to be cool stuff that goes with it. So that's how that came around.
Cool. Now, when you do the Planet series, the Conquer Earth, do you start with a sketch? What's kind of your thought and work process?
Yeah, I'll start writing down stuff, and I'll say, okay, what kind of elements, what would be something that would be interesting that they'd be hunting for? Once I get that written down, I'm like, well, who are the characters? And then if they're hunting for this thing, what does the world look like? What are some tidbits on pieces? Like maybe what's a rough layout or an interaction with a character? Maybe I use that, maybe I don't, or maybe I use that as inspiration and create something off that. So like I'll do, Scott, you can take the first one. So I'll do, like, this was Planet J, right? And in Planet J, it's the invisibility fiber, cotton fiber, right? And as a kid, I would, you know, you hide, like there's a storm, there's whatever, you hide under a blanket, you're invisible. And so, and then of course you get to Harry Potter and there's an actual invisibility cloak. And there was something about like the invisibility fiber, and from my childhood on like hiding under blankets, you know, or like trying to disappear if you're, you know, playing hide and seek or something like that. And like clearly you can be seen. But there, as I was going through this, I'm like, all right, I would want an old style, like I want a steampunk style, like sci-fi cotton gin, but if you got to be able to drive the thing. So I just kind of sketched out a little, and then like what are the characters in there? Well, I got to have Wiley in there. I got to have Marvin. What does the world look like? How are they picking this? And then the little boxes on the corner of me just working out tiny little rough layouts. And this one, I ended up using the bottom right layout. So if you want to go to actual Planet J, so this is Planet J. This is the Acme, I think I called the Acme CJ 1794 EG, which stands for the cotton gin, which was invented in 1794 by, what?
You don't want it to
I
get
don't want
cold
it.
again.
Okay. All right. Thanks, buddy. So
Thank you, Mr. Hunter.
that was Mr. Hunter. Yes. Why can I not remember the dude's name who invented the cotton gin? Great.
Eli Whitney.
Thank you very much. Eli Whitney. And it's an EW.
Little assist from the gallery too.
Thank you. Thank you, gallery. I totally blanked on that. So it's the CG 1794 EW, which stands for obviously Eli Whitney creating cotton gin in 1794, or the patent for it, I should say. So in this, right, they've got this vehicle and Marvin's stretching this thing out because he's like, holy crap, I can see right through it, right? And then Wiley is holding up this, it's like gold. He knows it. You got a Hemi on this sucker, which is why you got an engine with a blower on the front. And you've got this, there's elements of the cotton gin, an actual cotton gin that are kind of woven in between the gears, and it's sci-fi version. And then underneath, after it's picking this whole thing, they would collect in these, you know, these containers that float. And what these guys are doing is, because they're so occupied up on top and they can't see what's going on underneath, Daffy and Bugs have cloaked part of themselves in this and which is why you can kind of see right through it. And here's the thing, how would you know that you even had anything missing? It's invisible. I have no idea. I have no idea how that works, on how much you have, on where it goes. It's invisible. So good luck with that. And you can see them just, there's the little like cotton plants as they're kind of popping out of the ground, and as they're picking and putting it in, and they're just hauling the stuff away.
The literal definition of one step forward, two steps back.
Yes. And then you go to Planet K. So in doing a sketch of this, I'm like, you know what? Like, my kids love bubbles. I've loved bubbles. We have bubble machines. We have bubble everything. We have those bubbles that, like, you can, when I was back up in Illinois and it would freeze, thank goodness I don't have to deal with that anymore, but you could freeze bubbles, and there, those bubbles that you can like hold stuff in that are like super like thick walls, whatever it is. Right. And I'm like, bubbles have been like a thing in the family. So there's something, you can contain things in bubbles. You can float in bubbles. There's all kinds of stuff that you could do with bubbles if you were able to capture this. And Marvin has a bubble pipe, right? So he blows it. So there's kind of like a refuel element, and then just kind of like a transportation thing. Well, in kind of laying this all out, I'm like, well, what does this look like? Well, in a bubble planet, you would have these structures that kind of grow out of the ground, and it's the containment of the fluid. And so on the left, you would have it's piped up through this machine. And then on the right, the lid closes, which collects the fluid, opens back up. And then there's a little fan plants underneath, and that kicks on, blows the bubble, and up it goes. So, I've got Marvin down there with his little slingshot. I'm like, am I working something out there? So I'm kind of like trying to figure out. And then you got Bugs with his head gigantic in the bubble than his normal size, right? Because it distorts perception. And so I ended up going, I think, more with the second layout in the box, and then we can go to Planet K.
So why is Planet K bubbles? Why bubbles? Why not B for bubbles?
It's because it's the planets with the element doesn't necessarily have to go with what the letter is. And in this one, it was just K was this bubble element. And so you can see in the, like, I used the slide open, thing, which is why Wiley kind of like got dropped in, and now he's going to get sucked into a bubble. I used the references of the structures, and then you have these giant structures, around the planet. And then there's all these bubbles that they're trapped in. I've got 5 characters in, which is kind of the most I've done. One of the most I've done up to this point. And there's Marvin's trapped. And then what would you have fun with as a kid? You would go and like try to catch the bubble on the stick again, right? So why not have these things that were designed to catch the bubbles just like you would recatch on the stick? So they've caught them, right? And which is kind of funny, and they're using their little hover pods as they go. But here's the key. So in the 2 of these guys meet, Marvin and Bugs meet in 1948 in Hair Devil Hair, right? There are not including the bubbles that from Marvin's bubble pipe. There are 48 bubbles that are drawn on.
I was going to guess that now.
Yes. See, so there's 48 bubbles that are on the outside there, and that references 1948 when the 2 of these characters met for the first time.
So it's phenomenal, again, how you work in the cultural and historic references while still coming out with a piece that's just fun, even if you didn't know that.
Yep. Hi, Mike. Thanks for waving.
So he's just a Planet K fan.
So then we get to Planet L. Planet L, when I was going through this, I'm like, I've had a rubber band ball for decades, right? That I would take around. Like, I don't know where I got this thing from, but it would just travel with me. And there was something fascinating. Like, I don't know how it's probably on YouTube, right? How you make a rubber band ball. I've never put the research into it. And so I'm like, rubber band balls just fascinate me. And so I was like, okay, what if on this planet, like rubber bands are so useful, right? So like for holding things together, for launching stuff or whatever, and they're stretchy, they're versatile. So this planet would actually have rubber band balls that grow. And that's where this came from. Cool. So I've got little elements in here of how, if this, like, that's an actual rubber plant, like on the right with the leaves, and then you've got this little cabbage like thing, and then you've got these, I'm imagining kind of like a desert landscape where instead of like cactuses, because cactuses kind of look like slingshots, you would have this thing. So this was the concept sketch for it. and I started a thumbnail a little bit down there. I'm like, I don't know. And I actually didn't use either one of those. So, you know, I've got Canine playing with a rubber band ball because that's what dogs do. And, you know, Bugs is pulling back to launch something. So then let's go to Planet L. So there it is. Now, I reference film and pop culture in a lot of these, and I absolutely love Raiders of the Lost Ark and Last Crusade, right? Those are I love those two films. I watch them all the time. And there was something to me that, like, out of all of this, you know, they would be going after the biggest rubber band ball. You know, like you see Bugs and Cadet there, they're scooping up all the little ones that are growing. So what happens is what you can kind of see in here is the vein in the leaves for the rubber plant. When the leaf blows off, it hits the ground. Well, when it hits the ground, there's a certain color in that vein. Maybe it's purple, maybe it's blue. Well, that's what spawns the color of the little cabbage plant there that produces the rubber band ball. And so they're collecting all these things. These guys went after the big one. This was an insane, this took me the longest out of everything I've done so far. Those freaking rubber bands. And they're running that, like, this is the Raiders of the Lost Ark homage as he's running away from the rubber band ball. How I don't think they're going to escape the same way Harrison Ford did, you know, in Indiana Jones. So, but they are hauling it down this path. And then, of course, for Planet L, I had to buy rubber band balls. So I went on to Amazon. I ordered the rubber band balls, but it wasn't good. Like, you know, it's $10 free shipping. And I'm like, okay. And then Amazon in its infinite wisdom was like, wouldn't you like all of these things? Now, thankfully, I didn't buy them all, but I did buy myself a little Boba Fett figure, because why would you get something shipped for free for $10 when you can get something shipped for free for $30? There you go. There's my Boba. That's my action figure that I got because I bought these things specifically to do that planet. There you go.
So can we go back to the Planet L picture and the sketch just before it? Because when you were showing it, where's Gossamer in the sketch?
He's not, because not in everything that I do. And like, that's another thing, is like, what characters am I putting in? Sometimes, like, I'll go through this and I'll like, Wiley's not in there, but Gossamer is, because Gossamer made more sense because he's got to lift this thing. So it made, like, the humor in it to me made more sense with this giant, you know, furry monster running away with these two than it did with it wouldn't have made as much sense to me with
it makes perfect sense. And what struck me, since we're good enough tonight to have your concept sketch and now the final version, is the impact of the final version is tremendous, where obviously the rubber band ball is now in color, but you've got the powerful image of Gossamer, who always sticks out, then Marvin, of course, and K9, and it just becomes this powerful image from the sketch, which is neat. But I think you see more power in the final version.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why when I was going through it and I was kind of noodling some stuff, that's where it came out. I wanted to answer, before we get into Planet M, I wanted to answer Don's question. And then I think Mardina had a hand up, but then she disappeared. So in the mediums, there's a handful of mediums that I really love working in. For this, colored pencil to me is on textured paper or smooth black paper, like dark paper. For me, colored pencil and dark paper, I just love that combination because the colors can pop. And because I use a soft core colored pencil, it kind of works it's a little waxier. It works kind of like oil paints a little bit, and it allows me to blend and stuff. And then the color just jumps. And I build and build and build up to these things. So I love that medium for this. I love ink and markers, specifically alcohol-based markers, specifically Copics. So like when I'm doing those sketches, like we showed on the mashups, those are my jam. I love that stuff. And then oil, acrylic, and watercolor. It's really it depends on what I'm doing that makes sense for the thing. There's certain things I love about oils on canvas. There's certain things I love about acrylics, and then certain things I love about watercolor. So those, I realize that's like 5 mediums. 6 mediums, but that's kind of I like playing in those 5 worlds.
That's how you become an internationally acclaimed artist, though, working in multimedia. So
thank you.
But it's good. Each one has a different texture and a different look. So it's good to be able to work in those different forms.
Yes. So now we get to Planet M.
Why? Because that's after L.
Yes. So Planet M, to me, like Jello, there's always room for Jello. And there was something like I ate it as a kid. We had it at every family holiday. The Jello mold was the thing, right? and specifically this kind of design of the Jello mold. And there's
Ben,
some,
did anybody ever like a Jello mold?
I don't know, but like
They come at holidays, but I don't know anybody that likes them or eats them.
except for when it went to like the Jello jiggler, which is essentially just Jello on a baking tray that you cut a shape in, and then you're still eating it with you're eating with your hands, right? And then the Jello jiggler, which is just the same Jello, but it's in cool shapes, and you can do this and wiggle it and then eat it with your fingers.
You also have Jello shots, which are very, you
Thank
know.
very much Jello shots, not with what I'm going with margarita.
So anyway, there you go. Back to Planet M though.
So to Planet, I'm like, there was something about like taking a hot liquid and then you can, whether you're trapping something, transporting, whether it's a cushion, you know, as you're falling, like there's something to it that was to me hilarious. I'm like, yeah, the gelatin particle or element, I think is what I call it. So as I'm going through this, and I'm like, well, you know, there's stuff in here, like, where are you piping it out of? Well, these cauldron things pop up. Now, when you're heating up gelatin, what are you doing on a stove with a pot, right? That's got a handle. So I started to do some designs in here, and then I took it to the kind of the next step on the next piece when I did the finish. But I started working my layouts down below, and I got kind of a rough area of where I wanted to go. And and here's the other thing, right? Do you eat Jello with a fork or a spoon, right? It all depends. Some people eat with a fork, some people eat with a spoon. So K9 shows up with a spoon, but why would he be doing that? So I was
here again, Ben, the Jello shot concept becomes brilliant. You don't need to choose, you just do the shot.
Just do the shot. So then we get into, go ahead and show the Planet M. So this was the most neon thing I've ever done. And to get the Jello mold to look like that, like he's tinted. So in the piece that you see, like the only thing is his foot is sticking out of the Jello mold, right? And that's it. But he's trapped himself in there. The Jello mold has tumbled over. He's spilled out of that. And then K9 comes to the rescue, just like in the concept sketch with the spoon. However, you're going to need something a little bigger than that. So in comes Bug in his Acme Jumbo fork, and he's just going to stick that sucker and go. Now, in the
that is not looking good for Marvin with the fork of Damocles standing over it.
And the most common Jello that we ate all the time was lemon lime. Hence why we have a lime colored Jello. So you can see in the cauldrons that pop up, they grow out of the ground. They also have handles that stick off. All right, that's referencing pots, because that's what you boil the stuff on the stove and then you put it in the mold, stick it in the fridge. And then what would the terrain be like? It would be giant boxes. You go to the store, it's a giant box of Jello, right? So there, and it never fills you up, which is why there's a hole in the middle. So there's your kind of, and this evokes a little bit of Southwest to me, right? And the Monument Valley. So this is kind of like that mix of Monument Valley Jello boxes, you know, and then you've got these little cauldrons, and they take off by themselves, so they're automated, right? You can see the two going
Have
up.
to be.
Yeah. So anyway, that's Jello, and yeah, that was Marvin's. But I'm
How's the little bit of Southwest, more of a Chuck homage in there?
Yeah, Chuck, and like the design in the background. I love Maurice Noble stuff, and I love his Wile E. Coyote stuff and how he did things. And so his philosophy behind stuff was, don't make the backgrounds so complicated that it interrupts what's going on in the main action. So, you know, it's set back, it's a little faded, it doesn't overtake what's going on. It's subtle, simple structures, and that way you can get an idea of what the world looks like without it being so complicated.
It's great. Now, what else do we have in terms of the planets?
So we have Planet M.
N, because N comes after M.
It does. Yeah, we are. Welcome to school, and everyone.
We're educational as well as entertaining.
Well, you know, it's a mix of both worlds, which I love. So in Planet N, I love Pop Rocks. I love Pop Rocks as a kid. I still love Pop Rocks now. I had Pop Rocks a week ago. It's just a fun candy. Well, in these elements, right, you would want something that has a bit of an explosive to it, right? You know, like something that could pop. So I was working through stuff, and I'm like, well, I need pop, like there's Pop Rocks, and you go to a planet to harvest these things. So what would the terrain look like? So you got a little terrain, like what do they capture these in? Well, kind of like space rocks, they're going in these little bags. Hello, Pop Rocks pouch, right? And you've got Marvin sitting there up on his little step ladder, and my initial thought was, okay, like the muscles coming in to pick up the big stuff because that's what they're moving. But if he's curious about what's going to happen when the when a little water droplet hits on it, you know, are they going to be that close? And then what would be the answer to that would be like, how would they be fording them? Well, Daffy and Bugs would then, if one little drop makes it go a little boom, guess what a whole big bucket does? Makes it go huge kaboom. So then go ahead and go to Planet N. So they've got these conveyor belts of, you know, like little, again, we're using these steampunk little carts that they're moving, just like we did with the invisibility fibers. And instead of like, it made more sense for Gossamer to be holding it away from him, because he's not dumb, and holding it away from him. And then, you know, like Marvin's still leaning over the thing. And what's going to happen? Well, and then Daffy and Bugs, and they're totally oblivious to this because they're totally concentrated on what they're doing right now, are going in, and he just dumps the whole bucket of water. And then I went back to my love of the robots from the Phantom Menace and like kind of the prequels and then the Mando series. And the design off the little robots that help collect these little things that go in the pouch. You can see they have extendo arms and all kinds of stuff. So they're helping collect these. And then Pop Rocks come in all these neon colors. So you wouldn't have just like a normal colored Pop Rock, which is why you have these little outcroppings around the whole thing.
It's really fun too. I enjoy watching the sketches, which have the elements that we ultimately see, but then how the final design, the color obviously makes things pop, but also how the design elements come together. So, and I'm sure you're having fun designing these too.
Well, and I love the, you know, the expressions, the designs for the suits and the costumes and what they're doing, and then just the world that they're putting them in. And I love that they're in space. So space to me has kind of like those neon skies and, you know, the again, simple structures in the mountains behind kind of thing, because it's a rocky surface. So, and then just even designing, creating the machines that they're going with it. And the fact that Bugs, it's almost like, I love the People Mover at Disney, and I love the People Mover. The People Mover is a blast. So this was my kind of like nod to the People Mover, and then in the Pop Rocks Planet, because I was just at Disney with my kids a couple of weeks ago, and what did we ride? You're darn right, we rode the People Mover.
Excellent. So after N, I think we come to O.
Planet O.
It's in Olson.
This is Olson Planet. Straight up, it's my planet. It's Planet Me. And
so here's one where the letter does match the theme.
The letter does match the theme, at least in name. And in what you need, like something in a spark, right? There's got to be something where you can charge things up, kind of like you know, you're not just having batteries everywhere. You gotta charge up your whatever, your machines, all this kind of stuff. So there's got to be a power source. Well, what better than Mjolnir and a planet full of Mjolnirs as an electrical source for like Thor's hammer that can summon the lightning, hence charging whatever you need done. So in this, I'm like, all right, I've got this thing. And you know, in Thor, obviously, if you're worthy, you can wield the hammer. If you're not, you can't. Well, in this one, if you're worthy, you can fly with the hammer, and it's used for multiple things. If you're not, you just get straight up electrocuted. And so the obviously they are not worthy, which is why we have kind of the sketch of these two, and I've got like the Thor helmet rock structures in the back with the handles from Mjolnir that kind of grow out of the ground. And then we've got lightning, and how these little hammers show up is lightning hits the ground, right? And boop, up pops a hammer. And then you harvest the thing, right? Why not? It's that easy. And then where are you at? Well, I wanted like a space style background, and like specifically with those gorgeous images that the new telescope just took. I don't remember what the name is. It's just wicked cool. So we go, and I only had one layout, which was the one on the bottom left. And I'm like, yep, that's what I want to do. So like, let's go to Planet O. Planet Me, Planet Thor, Planet O. So this is Planet O. We have those galaxies, you know, in the back and that skyline. We've got the Thor. It's almost dead on. Everything that I did in the concept sketch, I put into this one. And
what does that mean, Ben? Is that indicated by you only had one of the little sketches in the bottom of this the sketch that we saw a minute ago, where some of the others I've noticed there might be 4 little layout sketches?
Yep, I
only have one filled out down there on the bottom.
I've got one filled out. I had the other one, and I'm like, nope, that's what I want to do. So this one, I got what I wanted right off the bat, and I finished this one at I went back after the show last night, worked till 1:30, and then finished at like 10:30 this morning.
Your time or our time?
My time.
Okay.
So it was I wanted that galaxy structure. So I searched some images. I knew kind of what I wanted, and I use that for the background. And there's the lightning coming down that pops up these little hammers. Now there's 4 hammers for my kids, 4 kids. So there's 4 little hammers in there because this is Planet O. This is Planet Olson. This is Daddy's favorite Marvel character, right? I want to fly it, and just goes to show you as we're Scott, like this is Mjolnir, right? Now, can I fly with this thing? I don't know. I'm too lazy to find out, but it's heavy and it could bludgeon somebody. So,
And apparently you're worthy.
yes, I am worthy. I can hold this thing. So we've got, this is Planet Me. There's a whole lot of me in this. So you can go back to the image, Scott. So we've got the glowing hammers. You can fly. These guys are getting electrocuted because they're not worthy. And then you've got the reference to my little ones in there. And as a youngster, I was always fascinated with space. And what I love about where we're out a bit in the sticks here in Inverness, Florida, we love it here. And there's not a lot of ambient light, any city light. So you can see stars, you can see everything out here. And it brings me back to when I was a kid up in my family. Our family had a cabin up in Upper Michigan and the Upper Peninsula, and same thing. I would daydream about going to space. So Planet Me is me in space. Like it's my dream as a childhood, my all-time favorite Marvel character. And then, you know, I've got my family wrapped up in there.
Nice. Now, tonight, I think we end at Planet Olson. But I had a question because the planets, the images are just so cool especially when you see them brought to life in color. So can people get the whole set? How does this work? Can you get A to Z?
You can get A to Z. You can get the whole set in paper, or you can get the whole set in. So I've got on all the APs, I sketch on the back, full character, right? I did Marvin's for the first stuff. I might mix it up and do whatever, but you'll get a full sketch character on the back. This is, I hand stretch this. The gallery does a 2-inch stretcher. So this is me doing the prototype, but we've got the G-Clay, and this is true to size. So if I were to hold up Planet, here we go, Planet J, right? It's true to size. So these are real size. And then we've got the paper size, which we see here in Planet D. And these are a little smaller. I think they're 12 by 8. And then, you know, there's a series. So you can get A to Z in that in full set. I think people have already collected full sets. And then you can get the full set in the G Clays. And it's great for like, what's for dinner? Taco night, you know, you put up all the planets, you kind of make a thing. I don't know.
You choose your meal by letter, whatever you're looking at.
Yeah.
But you answered my next question. That is whether people were getting the whole set, or do you find either a letter, like in your case, Olson, you buy Planet O. Do you like the image? And it sounds like you're getting a combination of that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the thing was, like, you know, people are getting full sets and there's stuff that comes with that, or people are getting initials and letters that, you know, pull out and stuff that they want to put up, which is awesome, which is like, that's the whole thing, like make it a you thing. We got 26 letters to play with. We have all these different planets and elements, like what speaks to you on that? And it's,
well, don't forget, if the 26 letters of our alphabet sell, we can go to the Greek alphabet.
Yes. Just like in Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, when he's counting and he says in Greek. And so maybe we start from there. But we will be revisiting Planet X because there's still a little bit of something there. And how are you going to mine that sucker? So Planet X is still in this, which is awesome. I'm like, they're like, are you going to do Planet X because of blue? I'm like, oh, we're going back. And let me tell you, it's an all-out brawl for like something that, as my son just gave me the cookie that they made, it's about that size.
There you go. Now, does this make the pins make more sense with if you go back and hold those up again?
So yes, here are all the pins. So this comes with, I love these things. I love designing them. I love having them. I obviously have all of these pins. And I wanted something that, like, what would I pop on and do? And I love Fabio's pins. I got Fabio's pins. Like, I'm like, again, what do I like? I love getting Fabio's pins. So I was going for some of this stuff, and I'm like, dude, I would love to have pins with this because this is something that I would want.
And who doesn't like pins? But we saw the Bugs hat, I think, flipped by in one of the planets, or a couple of them. So it makes sense to have the pin that you can wear and the art hanging on the wall.
Bingo.
Takes me a while, but I get it, and every once in a while. But that's awesome, and I'm glad to see that some people, you mentioned things that if you were worthy, being able to lift up the Thor hammer, and the way you've made this is everybody can be worthy to get some, all, or a few of the planets.
Absolutely.
So,
And I've enjoyed, because I get comments from people that have gotten the originals, and obviously like the limiteds look great, and they get the originals, and there's, you're looking at something and they'll find the detail and whatever. So it's just been fun to hear the comments from everybody as they're picking these things up, and what's connecting with them, and that's exactly what I'm going for.
It's fun to see how the series is coming together, because you talk about it and all right, Conquer Earth, the name is out there, it's great, sounds good. Then you're going to do planets and you're going to go A to Z. It sounds like a lot when you start. How are you going to do it? And yet each image links to the other and also stands on its own.
Yep. And that's part of, like, it's a story. Like, I wanted to create a story on something, and I don't think something like this has been done like this in this kind of way with the characters and stuff. So it's an original story, it's an original set based off one of my all-time favorites, Duck Dodgers. And at the end, I'm going to do an Art of Conquer Earth book. It's going to have all the planets in there, concept sketches and stuff, the storyline that weaves behind, like, how did this get to whatever, what was on this, what was a thwart. So there's a whole lot in there. Would you make Conquer Earth into an animated film? So by the time I'm done and I have things written in a certain way and shown in a certain way in images, maybe this is something that's going to the pitch. Just saying.
Here we go. I like the idea of the book too, so that you can, if you don't get all of the planets, you can have a book with all of them. If you have all of the planets hanging up on your wall, you can look at the book or take the book to a friend who wasn't lucky enough to get all of them. But just bringing it all together is great.
I love that stuff. Like, I collect other artists' books on things that they've done art of stuff. I love it. I pour through those things. So this is kind of like me doing my own thing based off this series that I've created. So yeah, again, I'm a fan first and foremost. So this is me as a fan on what I'm doing and creating, and then getting to do this with the Chuck Jones Gallery, which is just phenomenal.
I see the concept movie. So you may have to get into the Greek letters if we're going to expand to a movie. So, or maybe numbers. We can do numbers too, Ben.
Good. I'd love to do like a 22-minute film. Like, I think this could stand on a 22-minute thing.
I think it would be great and certainly a lot of fun. Hey, Ben, time is flying by. I'm having a great time chatting with you. People having fun watching. Hope you're having a good time. But I want to make absolutely certain that we have room for the third segment. I don't know if you're doing a costume change. I'm sure you are. But this is the art that nobody's seen. And I want to make sure we have a lot of time to take a look at it, have your description. So once you've changed Batman, so now this gives us another hint. And I think I mentioned earlier, there's going to be that parallel that you've talked about, kind of heroes and villains. And now I think for the first time anywhere, right, we are going to talk about your latest pieces. Let's talk about some of the nostalgia behind it, and then let's look at the artwork.
So I'm working with Chuck Jones Gallery on this project, which I absolutely love, because Batman, number one in the books. So I am stoked to be like, I remember, and we're going retro. So I remember as a kid, watching this series, and it was obviously bang, pow, and Adam West and Burt Ward and all that. And I love the series. Like, I watch reruns on TV. And so to be able to get to do something with Batman, the TV series, with the Chuck Jones Gallery on this new super secret project, which, by the way, Scott Dickin, I said nothing about, right? Mr. Lawrence, I said nothing. Al, did I say anything? No, I kept it a total secret, right?
Bam.
I did very
No.
good. I did
Pow.
very good. Pow. And they were like, when they were talking about it, they had the animated intro to the series, and they're like, the thought behind like putting villains all the way around, and then Batman and Robin from like the animated part in the middle. And I said I would absolutely love to do that. And see, Michael, total secret, I did very good. And I wouldn't budge. Yes, Al, I did not budge. And so there was something, and I'm like, okay, so you want in the ink, you want ink and marker. And we do that around, Willie Ito has done those montages, and they're beautiful. And I said, so we're doing something in that vein of things. And I said, all right, you want ink and marker, or do you want colored pencil on black paper? And are we doing like illustrated, or how to, and they were like, ink and marker. I'm like, okay, got it. So as I'm going through, and let's see if I have sketches somewhere. I went through and I started kind of sketching out the style of the animated intro. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to get the line work down and how they did it. I don't know what I did with those. I had it all here. Oh, here it is. So I was going through and I'm like, all right, but like there's Cesar Romero in the Joker. I love his hands in a certain pose. I'm like, I get his hands down. I'm like, how are you going to do that? I'm like, we've got, Penguin. We've got, Mr. Freeze. And so I'm like, okay, I'm trying to go through and I'm like, am I doing likenesses? How am I going to pull this around? Because it's not really caricatures. And so I'm sketching these things out, and I get an email from Scott, and he's like,
Let me just stop you for a sec, because we've spent our time looking at characters that were always animated, and now you just added your twist with the steampunk. And now it's a whole different process if you're trying to capture a person that existed as an actor in life and now make the representation on paper. So what's that transition like for you?
Well, and so Scott Ryder, I'm gonna pull up in person to start. So when I went through, I'm like, okay, I did the Riddler first for Scott, and I said, all right, I did it. I'm like, here's the Riddler. I'm like, this is how it would look. Like, this is how I would pull off the likenesses of the characters, and what I'm thinking if I did colored pencil on dark paper. And they're like, yeah, go with that. And I said, okay. So then I picked out 9 villains, right? And some that like are there. I mean, I've got King Tut in here. I'm sorry, man. King Tut, I think he's only in a few episodes, right? But yeah. King Tut is a member, like the dude is just ostentatious. So like there's certain, and then legendary characters, Zsa Zsa Gabor, Julie Newmar's Catwoman. So like Frank Gorshin, all that kind of stuff. Obviously Cesar Romero. And so they're Vincent Price. And so I'm like, it's got, by the way, Egghead was a Scott Dickin request. He's like, did you do Egghead? And I'm like, I can do Egghead. So I went through and I'm like, all right, let's start going through things. So I'm going to start with Catwoman, I think. Yeah, I'm going to start with Catwoman. And I'm like, this is how I would pull that off. So there it is. There she is. There's Juliana. Now, I went in a pose that's not, it was something as I was looking through images on reference. I loved this pose. It was sassy. It was sexy. Like, I think Julie Newmar is gorgeous. I still think she's gorgeous. Like she has aged beautifully. And there was something about this look. Like, if I'm Batman, I'm totally seduced by this. So like there was something in this pose, like in this image that I wanted in that sass. And so are we getting another custom change into Captain America? I could, the suit's in the other room. I could go put that on. So this was Catwoman, Julie Newmar. And then we went through with the aforementioned, no, wait, I got this out of my order. We went with Cesar Romero.
I don't know if you're going to remember the order that you just mentioned them in, but we'll go through.
No, I got Scott Ryder.
Scott
Ryder's got it for me. So Cesar Romero, right? And I like Jack Nicholson has always been my favorite Joker until Heath Ledger pulled it off, and then he pitched him out, right? But still, they do wonderful Jokers. Cesar Romero, wonderful Jokers. So here is my Cesar Romero Joker with those hands, like in that sketch. And I wanted the full open mouth smile. There was something devious and evil to it, and I loved it. So that was Cesar Romero. And then
Ben, you nailed the actor playing the character, which is so different from what we were just looking at with the steampunk animated characters. I mean, that's just spot on. If Scott wants to put it up again, of Cesar Romero as the Joker, just spot on.
Well, and that was the key to it. Like, if I'm going to do this in the style that I do it in, I want an illustrated likeness to it. And like, and because they're brilliant, like the characters to me are iconic from when I used to watch them. This is how I would portray them as I went forward. And then I love the colored pencil medium in the soft core colored pencil on black paper. So then this was what I sent to Scott, and the initial one, and this was the Riddler, and I went through who played what, and Frank Gorshin, and I'm like, I sent this to Scott, and I said, this is how I would want to pull it off.
When you say Scott, you mean Scott Dickin?
I mean Scott Dickin, yes.
Hey, Scott Dickin.
The Scott Dickin.
Yeah, more mashup. Scott Dickin, what
Yeah,
did you think when you saw that piece?
I was very fired up. I said, Ben, don't stop there.
And Ben, did you stop there?
No, I kept
Who do
going.
we have next?
So let's get to now. I love the Penguin character, and I love him in the films. I love Danny DeVito's Penguin. I love this Penguin. So
There we go.
This to me, I'm like, I wanted the pose. I need the umbrella in the pose. I need the umbrella. You can't have, to me, you cannot have Penguin without the top hat, the cigar, the cigarette, and the umbrella. That just, I need those elements in there. That's what makes sense.
How'd
So,
you decide closed umbrella versus open umbrella?
well, it's what I could fit on the page appropriately.
Fair enough.
So like I've got those all together, and just the look on his face, and I mean, the dude is straight up crazy, but I love that. And like that to me that was the pose that I wanted for Penguin. And then
Do you do a Burgess Meredith Penguin imitation?
I can't. I can do a Yoda for you. That I can do.
Where's
Which has nothing.
I know,
to do.
well,
Where's
Eric
Bowser when we need him?
I need, yeah, where is Bowser? So then we go into another one of my favorite characters, Mr. Freeze, right? And so but which one do you use? Well, this was my iconic memory. And so that's what I went with. And in that too, like I don't know what this dude went for makeup and everything like that, or what he had to put on, but there was something that I loved about this and that frozen look on his face. Like it's just that frozen soul, right? There's nothing like super devious. It's just frozen soul.
The whole thing is just cringeworthy. It gives you that freeze or frozen look.
Yes. So I had a blast with that. And at this point, I don't think I had sent Scott Dickin any more other than Riddler. So
Do you want me to have him turn around, or can he see these?
No, he can see the rest. So he didn't see the
All
rest of these until I was finished. And then if you're gonna do villains, like Zsa Zsa. So we've got Minerva, and just the fur that they had her in like different outfits, with the silvery sequins and stuff like that. I'm like, there's got to be something more to that. And I loved her wrapped in fur. So we've got all the pearls, we've got the silvery gloves, and it's just that stare with that golden blonde hair. So there was Zsa Zsa.
She was a little lesser known. What was her shtick again?
That's a great question. I don't remember. It was as I was going through, like I had remembered her from a couple of things, and then when I went to research more on the character, I'm like, I know obviously who Jean-Jacques Bohr is,
Yeah.
and I'm like, she has to be in there.
Her
So-
shtick was to be part of Ben's villain series as we unveil the Batman stuff. That's the role that she's playing here. And Ben has brought her greatly to life in the representation.
A C-list actress and a trophy wife, basically.
That's
I mean,
There you go.
that's her villainous character. So
Yeah, all right, so
The
Joel,
last episode, she owned a sauna. Thank you, Joel.
that's all we needed her to do. Show up in the last.
by the way, Joel chiming in from the steam room down the hall. That was-
Minerva.
So excellent. And a nod of thanks to Joel, who is the one that can fill us in on this information when
Yes.
the rest of us do not know.
I was
No,
going to
but-
say love her in Green Acres, but that was Ava Gabor.
That was a whole other
Not Zsa
war.
Zsa. So this
Show us more, Ben.
So Scott Dickin was like, I gave him the list of who I was doing. He's like, could you do Egghead? And I'm like, I can do Egghead. You want me to put that in there? And who doesn't love Vincent Price? So we went.
There we go.
Egghead.
There we go.
And I'm like the dude, like you had to do it. And so, and I'm obviously clearly I'm going bald. So this totally fits for me as my hairline recedes. But just that look, I love the look on his face, you know, and that just kind of raised eyebrow thing, and holding up very delicately, just holding up the egg. So Scott Dickin, that was for you, buddy. Egghead. And then
I can get you a consultant if you need one.
Make me
I
hungry
can
for an
hook
egg.
him up, Ben. So you keep, you know.
look him up. So then, as I aforementioned before, King Tut. I vividly, and I know he wasn't in very many episodes, but just the outfit, the everything, it was over the top. And I'm like, if we're gonna do this, we gotta have King Tut in. So this is King Tut, and he makes it in. I had to have the staff. There's certain things that you had to have in. One of the things was the staff, and that was it. And then
Ben, again, you absolutely nailed the image. I mean, the expression, the face, the staff. I mean, you nailed the character.
thank you, buddy.
Ironically, King Tut on Batman was far older than King Tut lived in real life.
There
The
you go.
magic of comics.
Yeah, right.
It's-
So and then we have Siren, Joan Rivers, right? And so we went. I'm like, she's got to be in this. I love the hair, like that thing. I don't know how you get that thing to stand up, and the harp. And there was something about her, and just the heavy eyeshadow. She's just absolutely stunningly gorgeous. So I love the harp and stuff in there. I wanted something that evoked like that bit of a pose and that emotion to it. And she's gorgeous. And again, how you get the hair to stand like that, I have no idea. But that wraps our 10 or 9 villains. That wraps the 9 villains. And then
We have to have heroes there, do we not? If we have villains?
now
Yes.
here's where the change comes in.
Ah.
So Scott was like, so could you do a Batman and Robin instead of using like the cell thing? And I'm like, I could do a Batman and Robin. And my first initial go at this didn't quite hit the mark. And I was using the pose from the animated cell, and then I was working the likenesses into that pose. Well, there's a reason why that was animated and that wasn't an actual pose. So I went back and I said, hold on, let me try to fix that. And I'm like, I tried a couple things, it's not fixing. So let me redo. I know how I want to put it up. If I don't have to go off that exact reference frame, let me do that, and I can still put the stuff in. So in comes Batman and Robin.
There we go.
And there we go. So now when I finished that one, I sent an email to Scott, and at first the email was to everybody with the first image of Batman and Robin, right? And then we have the obviously the henchmen and the villains in the background. And I said, okay, I just sent it to him this time, and I said, Scott, I am going to go fetal position if this doesn't work, because there's a lot of time put in this. I think I've got it. If it sucks, I will give me 15 minutes to cry it out on the floor in a corner, and then I will get right back on it, and I will do a totally different one. And then the email that I got back was explicative, S word, exclamation, exclamation, nailed it. And I'm like, okay, we're good. So that went in, and then that gets into this compilation piece, which is, go ahead, Scott Ryder, you can drop what this will look like in villains.
There we go.
There we go. So thank you. This project, there's some that as this is coming to life, and this is a thing. So what we're going to do, and Scott Dickin can correct me if I'm wrong, but
And he will, Ben.
and he will, in each of these. So you see what this whole layout is going to be. It's on fine art paper. I'm going to embellish every single villain on the piece. And then what I'm going to do is, you can see what this looks like as a mock-up, but I'm going to remove the henchmen in the back, and I'm going to remove the emblems, the R and the bat symbol. And then I'm going to hand draw in both symbols, and I'm going to hand draw on the henchmen on every single piece. They might be a little bit different setup on the henchmen. They might be a little bit different color here and there. So every piece is unique, but your main emblems will also be hand drawn in, and then each character will have an embellishment to it. So essentially you're getting a mixed media original with every single piece that goes in. And I don't think there's very many that they're doing. I have no idea. They have all the details on that, but this is a dream project of me, because Batman is my all-time favorite. This goes back to the nostalgic stuff of when this really hit, and I couldn't be more thrilled to be a part of this.
Hey, Ben, I have good news. Since Scott Dickin is with us, he can tell us about how that can be collected.
I am so happy. This is the first time I've ever found any Turner speechless. So this is a brand new project that's just come about. I said we wanted to make sure we were able to show it for Comic-Con. Still in the process of final approvals. It's beautiful. First of all, I would grab those originals. And second of all, the whole compilation is coming to a Chuck Jones gallery near you. You should definitely contact your consultant to make sure that you're on the interest list, because I believe we're going to be a very limited quantity. And if you don't have a consultant or you don't know who it is, I believe you can contact at what is it, clientservices.com, Don?
Client services at Chuck Jones.
There you go. It's going to pop up on the screen in a minute.
There it
we
is.
go.
Client services at Chuck.
Beautiful.
Yes,
I-
right.
Yeah,
And I
I'm
didn't
very
see-
excited about this, Ben. And this is something that just came about that, we worked with Warner Brothers for a long time. And the TV Batman from the 1960s was something that just recently came to fruition. So we're all fired up about it.
So yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
And how fired up are you, Ben?
I number one. So when he came in and asked the stuff and then getting to do these things, and I'm shipping all the originals out on Monday. So the gallery will have all the original sketches on these, but I'm stoked. I've wanted to do like an official Batman piece for a long, I mean, it's been like my first big painting that I did was Batman, which is hanging up above me right there when I was 16 years old, and this is the dream come true for me. So I'm just thrilled to death that I'm able to work with them. I'm thrilled to death and honored that they asked me to be a part of it. And here we go.
How are you making the time for that series, the Planet series we just talked about? What else do you have going on?
Well, so Conquer Earth is obviously has 11 planets to go. So I'm coming to the next round of that stuff. There's always stuff in the works and always things popping up. And then there's a bunch of different things happening next month that once I'm a little further down the road with, I'm going to be able to launch, which is kind of exciting. So yeah, it's, I'm telling you, man, I'm living it and loving it. And it's fantastic.
Is it fun for you as an artist to flip between the Batman pieces, which are very realistic, and the Conquer Earth, which take animated characters? I mean, they have two totally different looks, but they're equally fun.
Yeah, and which is in the medium that I'm working with in colored pencil, the fact that I can do both, and I love working in realism, and I have a really good time with it. It challenges me in certain ways, and then I take what I learned from that and I work it into what I'm doing in the animated side of things, and in the films and the cartoons and the characters there, and then vice versa. And so it's kind of a nice, I am super ADD. So if I do not stay on one track. So I have to be like over here, look at that. Let's do this. And it's got to be constantly moving around. This gives me the opportunity to do many different things as far as like switching between stuff, different mediums, different styles to set up. And I just have a blast with it.
There is no box, right?
There is no box. Not outside the box, not inside the box, not inside outside. Forget the box. Unless you're on planet M, and then there's a giant Jello box.
And that's not even a box. That's a mold.
That's not even a box. Right.
So where do you see on the Batman series, the Joan Rivers villain that you showed us was not on the piece? Where do you see more pieces coming? What are you doing with that?
I believe, and Scott knows how that's going to work. Like I don't know how they're setting it up. You might be able to swap out like a villain. Right now it's this set of 9. So how that works, and then, mix and match. They handle all that stuff. And so how she fits in, but those are the 9. And then we have our center image with Batman and Robin.
Just like, so the whole image, if Scott puts that back up, the whole image, this is actually what you will be able to order and get.
Yeah. Yep. And then I work on all of them. So it's this minus the elements that I said I'm removing out on the symbols, and then the henchmen in the back, which I will be hand drawing into everything, and then I will embellish every single character. So there will be hand done elements on every single piece.
That is a great way to go. Tell, we didn't talk enough about the henchmen. Where did they come from in your mind? How did you decide what they look like?
Well, that's from the animated intro. So in the scene, I'm like, I wanted some element of that was still in there. That's the element that plays in. So just the white eyes, and then, you know, the silhouettes in color, and that's it. So that comes from the animated intro. And then you bring that and mix that with that a more illustrated, you know, realistic look at the characters.
That's right. We sometimes forget about the animated intro or the zams and pops in between and bops when we had the real life action as the show actually went on. So good for you for mixing and matching just the way the series did. So anyway, that'll be good, and those will be available. Do you know when? Beginning when?
Now.
Excellent. So one more reason to reach out and call your consultant, or get a consultant if you don't have one. It was fun to reveal those with you that had never been seen. I think up on our screen are all the Ben Olson places you can go on chuckjonescatalog.com.
I don't. Yeah, apparently
So,
I've got quite the slate of links.
because one link is just not enough, right?
Oh, no. There's 3 sections. You might have 3 links.
3 costume changes, 3 sections.
Thank you. Which, by the way, I'm telling you right now, is getting really warm.
Well, it's a family show, so you had to layer up and not just change.
I did have to layer up. If I go anything, it's back down to Spider-Man. I won't go any less than that. But yeah, it's like layer. I'm like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just start layering on things. Like, that was great until, yeah.
So fair enough. Any other thoughts? We covered a lot between mashups, the Conquer Earth series, and the Batman reveal.
Yeah, if you have any questions in the gallery, or if anybody has any online, we could do that. Do
you have any questions?
They're like, we don't have any questions.
No, Ben, you've answered everything. You have taken it all. You've dissected the pieces. You've analyzed. You've explained. We've told people where they can get them. There's nothing else other than have you had dinner back on the East Coast?
Well, it's 10 o'clock my time, so I scarfed it right before the show.
All right, so I have one other very important question that I think we'll probably end on. One important question: will the Batman release be 16 field? That may be a Scott Dicken question.
That's a Scott Dicken question.
What's that?
One viewer, Joel Shapiro, wanted to know if the Batman release will be 16 field.
Yes.
The answer is yes. So that's easy.
That's about the only thing I know about.
All right, well, you know something at least. So Ben, the question I wanted to end on was, you showed us the big margarita glass at the beginning.
Yeah.
Where are we now in terms of the margarita? That's my question.
I mean, I've gone from here to here.
Yeah, but I still see liquid in there.
Hold on.
And I know we end when the margarita is finished.
No, we do not. Yeah.
So we are pretty close there, my friend.
We're close.
Good work.
I mean, good night. Hold on.
This will come back to bite me at some point, I'm sure, from
no
from Mr. Olson.
I guarantee you it will. Okay. Now
we are now down to the point where we can pretty much wrap up on that. And
put a wrap on that thing.
Ben, listen, thank you. It's been a lot of fun spending a couple of hours with you. I look forward to getting together in person, but thanks for walking us through the artwork. Thanks for taking us through everything. Thanks for your inventiveness, your friendship, your fun, sharing your art with all of us, which I know makes everybody smile and feel good. Glad you got through that margarita. And I will let you have the closing comment.
Oh, yeah, thank you everybody for signing on. I'm seeing comments at Michael Go. Yeah, I'm almost there. There's an after party on Instagram, by the way. I'm gonna do one shot of Fireball and during the Instagram after party. So we're gonna go do that. I'll tell you what I'm sketching on some stuff. We'll sketch a little something. I'll probably give something away. So if you wanna roll on Instagram in about 15 minutes, we're gonna do that. We did it last time. It was hilarious. We're gonna do it again. I wanted to say, first of all, thank you to everybody. Like putting this stuff on, the whole Comic-Con show, Dawn, Lisa, Sue, Scott Dickin, Mike Dickin, Scott Ryder, everybody, Joel, Michael Fiacco, the Carol, everybody, just thank you guys. If I left somebody out, please let me know. Andy, thank you for coming on and doing this. Thank you to Eric Balza, and thank you to Fabio and Trisha, and we had Mr. Reese on Thursday. And so just for everybody that came out and did this, thank you so much. And then
Might want to mention Craig, who kind of showed up yesterday for a couple of hours.
Well, I was getting to that point. So I'll just preempt it. Thank you, Craig, and everything for setting up all this. It wouldn't happen, and we all get to kind of nerd out and have a lot of fun together, show some great stuff, share some great stories. Thank you to everybody who was on tonight. I message, I think, with everybody here pretty much on some format, and y'all are a blast, and you make what I do feel absolutely great. So it's nothing without wonderful people like you guys, and I really appreciate it.
And a big nod to Linda, who lets us do all of this and started the galleries.
Let me tell you, if it wasn't for Linda, bless her heart, and what she pulled off, talk about being a groundbreaker, and then all the way forward, Craig and Linda have afforded me the opportunity, and it's in that Chuck spirit of creativity to do stuff with the characters, in what I'm doing, now, that it's been a dream of mine since I was a kid, and I didn't understand, I wouldn't have understood back then that now I would be getting to live with that. And that's the biggest kudos to Linda for allowing me to do the Craig, for pushing all this forward and just allowing that spirit of creativity. Nothing is hampered down. Nothing is, no ideas just put out. There's great constructive comments. There's just a great collaboration, and it's why I love working with these guys, because it's fantastic.
Perfect note to end on. Take care, Ben. Thanks again. Thank you to everybody. Take care. Good night.